But like I said, people in Martinsville know me, and what people have been asking me, where have you been?
Okay.
Because I just disappeared. I fell off what I thought fell off the face of the earth.
Okay.
Um, but what happened to me is I ended up having, you know, kidney failure. So I'm on dialysis and waiting to get a kidney transplant. Then my eyesight went. I'd gotten to a point that I couldn't hardly see anything. And on top of that, a couple of months back, I went to the emergency room in Martinsville. My blood pressure was through the roof, literally through the roof. And I'm gonna tell everybody, if you got blood pressure problems, if you got diabetes, I would suggest that you make sure you keep these things in check, because if you don't, they'll take you out of here. And to go through these things, it's been the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life. In saying that, just to give you an example, type 2 diabetes, and a lot of you are suffering with type 2 diabetes. And the doctors told me, so you can't get rid of diabetes. Once you get it, you got to stick with it for the rest of your life. That's not really true. So I'm going to start out type 2 diabetic. That's what I was. I had an A1C of 11.2.
Now, can you explain that
What
for those
A1C
who may not have diabetes? What does that mean?
A1C, it measures your diabetes over a 3-month period
Okay.
to see how you keeping your blood sugars. Well, my A1C was 11.2. They were getting ready to put me on insulin.
Okay. And you said 11.2, but what's considered normal?
Around 6.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And so they were getting ready to put me on insulin, and I said, just hold up a minute. Let me see if I can take care of this. So what I did is I did something called intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Okay. And fasting is all throughout the Bible anyway. Mm-hmm. But intermittent fasting, I didn't change the foods that I eat. I just changed the times. And the way I did that was, let's say in the evening, my last meal was at 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't eat again until around 11 o'clock the next day.
Okay.
That's all I did. Kept my same meals, everything.
Well, now, how was changing the time? How did that impact your diabetic situation?
Because some people got something. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It is I can't think of the name of it, but it's oh, it's insulin resistance.
Okay.
So by changing the time that I eat, it kind of takes care of that. Because if you think about it, if you're eating 3 meals a day, you got one meal, your breakfast. You got breakfast in the morning, and your body is trying to, you know, to digest the food. Then, before it gets that digested, you're eating lunch. Your body's kicking it in, trying to digest it, and then you got dinner, and then all night your body's trying to digest all of this stuff.
Okay.
But when I did this, my A1C went from 11.2. My A1C right now is 4.8, without any medication whatsoever. Some people need medication.
Okay.
Well, I got in the doctors, they are amazed, that I can maintain that. But I'm just thinking.
Were you ever on medication for your
Yes,
diabetes?
I was taking glipizide.
Okay.
I was taking a medication, and then what I noticed is I was taking the medication, and my blood sugar was bottoming out. So I come off of the medication because I didn't need it, and I haven't taken medication for years.
Okay.
For diabetes.
So how would you describe your diabetic situation now?
I'm not diabetic.
Okay. And so you didn't change your diet.
No.
You just simply changed the times
that you eat.
What made you know to do that? I mean,
I found it on the internet.
Okay.
I was researching and stuff like this, and all of a sudden intermittent fasting came up, and I started researching it. And I said, I'm gonna try it. I got to. I'm gonna be honest with you. I tell people that I got rid of diabetes. I really didn't get rid of diabetes. God got rid of my diabetes.
Okay.
That's who got rid of my diabetes right there.
Okay.
And I haven't had a problem with it since. All right. About 7 or 8 months ago, my blood pressure was through the roof, and I went to the hospital here in Martin, and they didn't keep me. They actually, I was there for a while, for like a day, but they released me from ICU straight home. So I went home that night, and I said, let me check my blood pressure. I couldn't get a reading. So I decided to go back to the hospital. When I went back to the hospital and I told them I couldn't get a reading, my blood pressure was something like 240 over 100 or something.
Oh my goodness.
Within 15 minutes, they had me on a helicopter flying me up to Roanoke at Carillion. If I hadn't went to the hospital that night, I would have died. I would have probably had a massive stroke. I spent 7 days in the hospital up at Carillion in Roanoke. 7 days. Everything was just going haywire in my life. And I normally won't tell people this, but I'm going to tell you this. I had made up in my mind that I was going to end my life. I've been so used to working and being able to doing things and be around people. But I said, I've just had it. And to be honest with you, I had gotten to a point in my life that I didn't believe in God. And there was no way in this world you was going to convince me that there was a God after what I was going through with. So that night I decided to do something that I normally don't do. I decided to pray. And I asked God, if you are out there, please show me. Show me that you really exist. Because I didn't believe God existed. I was just going through too much. Well, that night I had a dream. A lady in my dream, she touched me on the side of my face. And to describe her, you remember the 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 glove that Michael Jackson used to wear? Her whole body was covered in this, from the top of her head to her toes, was covered in this. And I'm thinking, oh man, what is this? But look, that next morning I got up, walked out on my porch, and for the first time in years, I could see eyes. I couldn't believe it. Hospitals, Duke Hospital here in Martinsville, and they got the records. Not in Martinsville, in Carolina. I've been to the eye care center up in Roanoke, and they told me, says, Mr. Harrison, there is nothing that glasses. Well, they sent me over. Glasses do me any good. So I knew, I said, well, we end up being blind. And so, but that morning, when I woke up and I had my eyesight back, I have never praised God so much in my life. I didn't have tears. I called my brother at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he said, brother, what is, I was crying. And I kept crying and kept crying. And he said, why are you crying? And I told him it happened. Got eyesight. And when he did that, my brother told me, said, brother, I have a head. I said, well, man, can you how I feel to have that experience in my life? God showed me that he existed. He took me by the hand. And when you experience God touching you, nobody or nothing can take that away from you. I used to actually sit around and laugh at Christians. You see them shouting and stuff like this. Not saying nothing but mass hysteria. But what I realized, when God grabs you, he snaps catches you by the hand, and he took me on a journey. Let me get to my lowest point. Believe you me, that was my lowest point. You know, where Abraham was supposed to sacrifice his son Isaac, and what did he do? Let him get right to the end. And to understand, now I understand what that's all about. God wanted to see if if you wanted to really trust Him. Well, I'm telling you right now, I trust God more than any anything He wants me to do, or whatever He leads me to. So be it. There are cases in the Bible where what would He say by your and by doing that, and then He'll let them go on back out in the world. And He says, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can tell that mountain to be gone, and it would be thrown into the sea. And most people don't even know what a mustard seed is. A mustard seed is so tiny, it's almost microscopic. You can't hardly see it. But that's the little faith that you need. I tell people that I got rid of my diabetes. No, God got rid of my diabetes. You know, and to think of stuff like that, and it's just like, it is so hard. I was telling the bishop, I feel like sometimes I can walk on water. I'm not going to try it. but I feel that way. I mean, that's just the way I'm feeling. I have never experienced anything like this before. I know how Saul felt now. He's on his way to Damascus. And what was he going down there to do? Persecute Christians.
Yeah.
It's just like me laughing at him. And he was knocked off his horse. He killed himself to it. And he realized when he changed his name to Paul. But to go through something like this and to experience something like this, like I said, I don't have any more tears. And what I want to do is uplift people, to help people. And that's all, it's just like I spent the majority of my life running after a dollar, trying to gather money. But let me tell you something about money. Money is like trying to hold water in your hand. Squeeze the less you got, no matter what. It's going to run out every side finger and everything. And my mama taught me something a long time ago. She said, son, what's the use of having money if you can't help somebody with it? Just don't eat. I wanted to find out whether God existed. In the case, you remember the case in the Bible where Moses, he wanted to see God's face. And what did God tell him? You can't look upon my face. But what I am going to do for you is I'm going to drill a hole in this rock. And I'm going to walk by where you can get a glimpse of my glory. Well, I'm telling you, to go through something like this, it tore me apart. But I know we have an awesome God. And we read about stuff in the Bible. And see, I even thought the Bible was just a book of man. We read about stuff in the Bible. We live in that.
Let me just ask you a couple of
Yes,
questions.
yes.
Because first of all, I sincerely appreciate you coming on
Yeah.
and sharing this with our viewing audience. You said when you were airlifted to Roanoke,
Yeah.
was that the time when your brain
Brainwave, yes.
was bleeding?
Yes.
All right. Now, in terms of the eyesight, was therefore the brain?
I go to the doctor, I have to have tests, and that ain't no fun. But so I had the test done. Well, I was at dinner the other night, and the doctor called me. He said, "I just want to let you know your prostate levels are normal now, and more better." But we get so caught up in this world that we don't think about things. It's like here I am thinking God doesn't exist. Bishop, when you get ready to go out to go somewhere, don't you go out and get in your car? Now, what are the chances of your car just appearing out of thin air? Somebody created it. And yet, when we come to body and human beings, the body is so magnificently made, it doesn't even compare. You know, a car doesn't even compare to that. And yet, oh, well, we just appear. Man, please. That's stupid. And I'll say it just like it is. That's stupid. Stupidity. You have to think of things like this and really think of it. If the car didn't appear, then you didn't appear. We have a creator out there that created everything in the universe. And here we are talking about, well, I don't think God exists. Things go your way. But so I'm thinking, now that I know God's out there, my whole look on everything changed. People, when they have to deal with death and deal with these different things, if you got God on your side, you can deal with anything. I had somebody tell me, well, you know the devil coming after you now. Well, I tell you what, if the devil coming after you, that means he don't have it now. And that's a true fact. I feel great. I feel great, and I feel better than I ever felt. To go through with what I was going through with, I just given up. I had really given up. You know.
So now you got your eyesight back.
Yes.
The Lord has taken away your diabetes. The brain bleeding,
Stopped.
that stopped. And the PSA in regards to your prostate.
Yes.
Now, what about your kidneys?
My kidneys. I'm trying to get a kidney transplant. I ask God to heal my kidneys. And if He decides that that's what He wants to do, fine. If He doesn't, so be it. I still want to live, and I want to have a decent life. But my main objective is for people, if you're on the edge and you just feel like there's no hope, cry out to God. And I guarantee you, He will take you by the hand and He will walk you through this.
Well, you really answered my next question, which was going to be, what is it that you would say to those who are listening, who are also having a physical challenge, having serious health issues?
Mm-hmm.
What all would you tell them to do?
Simple. Go to God in prayer and ask Him to help you. He may not heal you, but He will lead you. And that's a known fact. You know, like I said, with God on your side, it ain't nothing that you can't handle.
You called me Monday evening while I was in a Zoom meeting with pastors. And I think you did it through Messenger because you didn't know my phone number. You just knew I was on Facebook.
You're right. I didn't know your phone number. So I kept thinking, I said, let me try Facebook.
It kept coming up, and I kept cutting it off because I was in a meeting with my pastors. But finally, I told the pastors on my Zoom, I said, this is a good friend. He's trying to reach me for a specific reason because you and I don't talk on the telephone. We see each other, we stop and talk. I mean, it's the kind of friendship we've had. I don't know who've ever talked on the telephone until Monday night. Yeah. And so when I called you, I mean, I couldn't stop listening. Your excitement, your passion, your faith, your courage. I heard all of that in what you were saying and how you got so low, and yet the Lord kept you from doing some things that your family would have probably never gotten over.
I was going to get rid of myself.
Yeah.
I had taken so much pain, and I had went through so much. I just had enough. But why would I do that? You know, I did that because I left God. You know, and He didn't go anywhere. I left Him. But to feel the way I'm feeling now, I mean, today I was just talking to, I went to get some breakfast. A guy was sitting there, I started talking to him, and we were talking about this. And he was in tears. I've been in tears ever since. Because I'm thinking, maybe I can help somebody before they do something that they can't take back. Yeah. But I have never felt this way before. Never felt like this.
Well, and conversation on Monday night, I told you I would not presume that the Lord is telling me to tell you what you need to do next. Anytime I do that, I'm led by the Spirit. I would just arbitrarily get up because I'm a pastor and say, the Lord is saying this, that, and the other. If He has not said that to me, I'm not going to say it to you. But in terms of where you are in your relationship with the Lord right now, what is it that you feel that you want to do before you get clarity on what the Lord is telling you that He wants you to do next?
Online.
And what are some ways that you propose to do?
Keep somebody from committing suicide. Okay. Sometimes we just down and out that we don't think. You know. I'm gonna tell you what it felt like I was going through. It felt like quicksand.
Okay.
The harder I fought, the deeper I got. But God reached a hand down and got me. He got me out of this. And I'm so thankful. I have never been that thankful for in my life.
I know something about depression. You and I also talked about that.
Yes.
When I had major surgery, the
Right.
one thing nobody had told me, and I talked with I don't know how many people at that time. Our daughter was living at home with her because her husband was deployed out in the Midwest, and our grandson, who was now a college student, wasn't even a year old. But Nikki and I sat down and developed about 40 or 50 questions to share with my surgeon, Dr. Berry, who's now retired.
Yeah, I know Dr. Berry.
Okay. Yeah. But I talked with members here at the church who were in the medical field, with friends who were in the medical field, just trying to find out as much as I could about colon cancer. And I think I'm quoting Dr. Berry right when my daughter, I think Nikki may have gone into the doctor's office, and I remember him saying, Reverend, I've never had anybody to ask me this many questions. I said, well, I've never had colon cancer before, so we're both dealing with this new. But the one thing that nobody ever said to me was when you have major surgery, and I don't even know if it's just major surgery, that it's possible for you to go into depression. Oh, yes. And part of that has to do with the trauma that the body goes through. I mean, you having your body's cut open, and this, and we don't even go through that, but sometimes we don't even process that. But the thing that troubled me as a pastor who has taught on faith, who truly believes in faith, I felt like the depression was questioning my personal level of faith. And I did not want to preach it at Mount Sinai. I didn't want to preach it anywhere. But I did ask the Lord because, I had worked at a hospital, we were doing an internship when I lived in Washington. So I knew I was in depression. I diagnosed it. I knew that that's what it was. And I said, Lord, I believe that you can work through a psychiatrist to minister to somebody. I believe you can work through a psychologist to minister to somebody. I said, but I want you to take me out of this depression. Right, I understand. And Doug, in a matter of days, not weeks, in a matter of days. But let me back up. The one thing that kept me going was the Word of God. Yeah. I would, Wednesday morning, I'd start preparing for my Bible study for that night. As soon as we said benedict for Bible study, I started going back into depression. Saturday morning, I'd start working on my sermon. The depression would lift. After benediction Sunday, I'd go right back into it. And I said, Lord, you have carried me through this with your word. So I'm convinced that you can heal me of this. And he did that. He did that. And I think it's important for us to be transparent with some things. And like I said, I thought in my mind, there's a question about my faith. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ who can do anything, and yet I'm walking in depression. I'm preaching his word, I'm teaching his word, and yet. And the reason that you think that way is because you're a human being. That's it. You're thinking in human terms. And what was it, what Jesus says? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Okay. God didn't forsake him. But he let him go through this. He allowed that. Well, because of the assignment that he had. Yeah. But the other part of that is that word became so powerful in my life. I don't know if I had ever experienced depression before having that major surgery. That was in 2005. Bishop, sometimes the word cancer will cause you to go into a depression. Okay. Because we realize that somebody's got cancer, they may end up dying. Well, if we live long enough, we got to take that journey. But some people don't want to go early. But I'm just saying, things like that will throw us into a depression. We're trying to live in this world. Everything seems to be fighting against us. Everything seems to be fighting against us. But we got to remember, if we got God on our side, that fight is not, it's not going to be hard for us. The sisters of our church is a very active ministry, and last night they had 3 of the sisters to pray, one after the other. And I talked about, there was a time when Mount Sinai had 6 a.m. prayer 6 days a week. 6 days a week. And we are having some sickness in our congregation. Mount Sinai is getting old. And the Lord allows us to see 2025, Mount Sinai be 90 years old. And so when your congregation begins to age, but now we've had some people who were not old who experienced sickness, but the Lord has led me to start preaching on healing.
I got you, understand that.
And so there are things, I think, when it comes to prayer and fasting, that we stop doing when the Lord blesses us economically. You know, I'm not suffering in terms of being able to pay my bills or this, that, or the other, my car note, my mortgage, all of this. And so we stop praying because we're getting these other blessings. But and I'll say this and I'll get back to you because you're my guest. But I tell people anything that I cannot take with me when it's time for me to check out of here is not the highest blessing that God has for me. If I have to leave it here, that's not the highest blessing that the Lord has for me. Now, that's not to say I don't want stuff. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because in order to function, in my opinion, at a competent level in ministry, you have to have resources.
Yes.
You know, there has to be a vision, but then God also provides provision so that you can implement it. Go ahead, I don't want to cut you off.
Now, you were speaking of prayer. I had something interesting start happening to me. I went to the dialysis center. The nurse says, Douglas, I want to ask you something. I said, what's that? Would you mind if I pray for you? I'm like, no, I don't mind. Then I went to a pharmacist. And she says, Douglas, do you mind if I pray for you? I'm like, where's all these prayers?
Okay.
So obviously the prayers were sent up. And it started to come back. And I was even talking to a friend of mine, and she says, do you think that these prayers were just random, praying for you? Because everybody saw the difference in me. I have been so outgoing and having fun and enjoying life. And finally I locked myself in the house. You know, I had locked myself in my apartment, and I had given up. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go out because this all looked me. And I just wanted to stay at home and sleep. That's all I wanted to do. And I was in a major depression. Major depression. And the way you pull yourself out of depression is you rely on God. You know, let Him know that He is what keeps us here. And ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. To experience what I've experienced and to go through that has been the best experience in my life. Like I said, my whole outlook on life has changed.
Now, what day was it that the Lord restored your sight?
It's been a couple of days ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure exactly what.
So when you called me Monday night, it just occurred. Okay, okay.
A day or two.
But you know, as I said in the beginning, we've never had a telephone friendship. Our friendship has been.
I know. I see you out to breakfast and stuff like this.
Yeah, and that's usually when we run into each other.
And then I buy you breakfast.
Okay.
And, you know.
Oh, I'm glad you said it both ways, because I didn't want people.
I want you to know, if it's good food out, you will find Bishop Bridges in there. You ain't got to worry about it. He gonna be there. And he used to come in my restaurant all the time too.
Yeah, because I love fish, and my wife loves fish. It was a point I was gonna make, and I forgot what it was.
He'll come back to you.
But before the Lord restored your sight, you became secluded.
Yes.
You shut out people.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was part of the time that you were going through depression.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
You know, I go to the doctor. Do you feel depressed? Do you feel like harming yourself? And see, and the thing when he'd ask me that, do I feel depressed? And I would say, let me see. My kidneys are gone. I got to take dialysis. I can't see. Do I need to go further? You know, do I feel depressed? Of course I feel depressed. You know, and everybody thinks that when you're depressed, you need to take a medication. The medication is going to God. That's your medication right there.
Now, I'm glad to hear you say that, because earlier in the program you said there was a time you did not even believe there was a God.
No.
Was it? What was it? And I know you've talked about the the restoring of your sight. You talked about the diabetes being gone. You talked about the brain bleeding. You talked about the PSA, prostate, and kidneys.
And the thing with this is it's a document. It's documented.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Can you remember what incident or what experience that caused you to stop doubting and start believing that God is real?
You said what experience?
I mean, was it one or two, or was it gradual? Was it sudden, or?
And I woke up the next morning, my sight was back.
Okay.
After going to these doctors and stuff telling me that that wasn't possible. Mm-hmm. That got me right there. Okay. God, and the thing is, God talked to people in dreams all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like the language of God. A lot of people don't understand that. I didn't understand it. When she walked over and touched me like that, I'm like, what in the world is this? Was it an angel? I don't know. But I know one thing, my sight came back. I know that. And that, to me, meant all, like I said, my whole life changed after that. But, and I'll say this to you, if my sight went back out tomorrow, I can handle it, And I just have to say, God, stand by me. You better see it, I know. But yeah, I'm just so happy. A lot of people go through life and they never are happy anymore. They just, because they get so wrapped up in things. But we need to take time for God, bottom line.
So, in terms of your personal relationship with the Lord going forward, say from this point on, and I understand you're still waiting for the Lord to give you some more direction in terms of what is the divine assignment that He's putting on your life. What is it that you feel that you will continue to do while you're waiting, and even after that?
Exactly what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to go out and try to help people.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to help people with their Bibles.
Okay.
We need to get into that Bible and really understand what's going on. And a lot of people, they read it and they don't understand it. But God will open your eyes.
One of the things I say to people, and even I do it when I teach Bible study, especially if I'm teaching young people, get a modern translation.
There you go.
The King James were really a hang-up preachers.
Yeah.
But that's what we grew up on. And there are times I'll read a text for a sermon or Bible. Mm-hmm. Well, for Bible study, I normally use the King James and a modern translation. Mine is the Contemporary English version.
I got you.
That's the modern translation. Then I have one book that was given to me by one of our Bibles given to me by one of our missionaries. It has 4 translations in it, and that sometimes I just want to compare, so I can just open the Bible and I've got on that page I have 4 different translations of the of the scripture, and that's very helpful. But
what's the songs that I was once blind and now I see?
Yeah,
I'm experiencing that.
Okay.
I am experiencing that.
So that works physically as well as spiritually.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I was sitting in a restaurant the other day with a friend of mine, and he is a living miracle. He was on a vent with COVID. He was on for 2 weeks. He was in the hospital for 5 months. And me and him walking out going to dinner and stuff like this. And I told him, I said, we were talking about it, and he said he's a pastor also. Mm-hmm. But he says that his faith was kind of shaken. And, I said, well, if you think about it, have you looked in the mirror? You look in the mirror, there you are. By rights, you should have been gone. Mm-hmm. You should have died. By rights, I should have died. But God kept you here for some reason. Mm-hmm. And we laugh and joke about it now. It's just like, whatever He wants us to do. Yeah. Whatever He wants us to do.
And it's challenging.
It
for
is.
A child of God.
It is. To
be going through physical difficulties and maintain a positive attitude.
My
There's one scripture that says, "He who suffers with me will reign with me," and so there are scriptures that once we get them in us,
yes,
that helps to keep us moving forward, keeps our faith. I just preached on faith Sunday, keep our faith growing. And that's and when you live for the Lord, this is not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
You have to commit for the long haul. And you can't drop out when you get disappointed. Because one of the things I say to the church, what I love about the Holy Bible is the Lord moved on people to give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because life is not all good. Life is good, bad, and ugly. But the Lord said, I will never leave you.
Right.
Which means if I'm going through the good, He's there. If I'm going through the bad, He's there. If I'm going through the ugly. And what you said, some question. And see, I've heard some people say, don't question the Lord. Doug, what I found out is some questions can't nobody answer.
Yeah, who better to question?
That's my point. That's my point. Because when you go through the scriptures, you find that there were people who questioned the Lord because they could not understand. Right. Now, Job said to his wife, if we're going to accept the blessings that God gives us, we got to accept the problems too. You know, and so he dealt with it from a very mature place of spirituality. That's all we hear about this Job.
I tell you, I feel like that's just what I think I know how Job felt, because everything in my life that I've done was taken away from me.
Okay.
Everything gone. You know, like I told you, I was chasing money all my life. Mm-hmm. Nah, it's gone.
Well, you know what? That's how we bet when we were selling insurance. Well, yes, indeed. And we set some goals about who can get.
Oh,
yeah. That was true of a lifetime.
Oh, I tell you, yes, indeed.
Another lifetime. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I got my life and health license, but I never did get the property and casualty. Yeah, but that's a whole other.
But I just, like I said, it seems like a weight has been lifted off of me, and that weight is having God back in my life and being able to help people and get them to see, And sometimes all you got to do is open your eyes.
Yeah.
Even a blind man can see. But I'm just so thankful, Bishop. I'm so thankful. People wonder what happened to me. Well, what happened to me is, like I said, I barricaded myself in the house. I was at the store the other day, and the lady says, "I thought you were dead."
Oh my goodness.
And I'm looking like, why? Well, I heard you had a heart attack and stuff like that. Well, you don't talk to people; they make up stories. Yeah. And I'm like, man.
But now we have had a grief care ministry at Mount Sinai for a while. Mm-hmm. One of the things we focus on is what to say and what not to say, even if she had thought you would.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. But there are times that would mean well.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't always do well. And so, if you tell somebody, it's time for you to get over that. Mm-hmm. You can never tell somebody to get over what they're dealing with, because especially when you have walked in their shoes.
Sometimes, brother, it's just so hard for me to think where I was at and where I'm at now. You would be really surprised. I'm just, like I said, I've done a lot of crying. I know that.
Well, when I look at these 5 subjects that you've shared with us, the eyesight, the kidneys, diabetes, PSA, prostate, and bleeding on the brain, one of those alone could have been challenged.
Yes.
And you've gone through 5, and the Lord still has you here.
There you go.
And so the question is, Lord, why am I here?
There you go.
Okay. And while you're waiting on Him to give you additional information, you are determined that you're going to help as many people as you can.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I believe that with the program tonight, what time is it? With the program tonight, that I pray that somebody has been helped, somebody's been uplifted, somebody has been inspired. Because I do believe it's true, what the Lord has done for one, He will do for another. And one of the things, and I may preach on this at some time, Naaman was a Syrian general, but he had leprosy. And the leprosy was in different stages. But they had invaded, the Lord had allowed him as a general, not a part of the covenant people of the Old Testament, the Israelites, to even invade Israel. And that's where the slave girl came to be his wife's maid. And she, her assignment was to tell Naaman, there is a prophet of God named Elisha. If you go to him, God just may heal you, because the Lord works through him. And so when he went, Elisha didn't come out. He sent his, Gehazi, I believe is his name, he sent his assistant out. And felt some kind of way. Did he know who I am? You don't be sending no assistant out. And he got more caught up in who he thought he was, rather than seeking what he went there for. He went there for healing. And he got beside himself because the Lord didn't do it the way he thought it should have been done. But he was getting ready to leave. But somebody in his group who had his ear said, General, what if he just said for you to dip in the Jordan 7 times? What if he told you to do something difficult? Would you not have done that? He said, what have you got to lose? If you dip and come back up, you ain't lost nothing. But if you dip and you come up healed, you've gained everything.
There you go.
And so there are times that the Lord will put people in our lives. Like if that girl had not been put in his life, what if, would he have ever been healed of leprosy?
You know what my mother told me one time?
What?
She said, son, sometimes God will put people in your life. You don't know the reason they're there until that you need them, you know, and then they're right there with you. I was at a friend's birthday party and they asked me to speak.
Okay.
And I told them, I said, you know what? In life, if you want to know who your true friends are, get down and out.
Okay.
Because your true friends will run to you and your so-called friends will run from you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, God is a true friend of mine.
Yes, sir.
You know.
The word said he's sticking closer than a brother.
There you go.
Yeah. But you're right about that. And one of the reasons it's important for a church to continue to work on a nurturing ministry is you never know when a person
You're right.
is dealing with something on the line.
See, nobody would have knew what was going on with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just, you know, it was just so hard for me.
Because we had not run into each other, and then, you know, with my schedule and with your schedule, it just didn't occur that you would. Because again, we'd never had a telephone friendship, relationship. But it's important to stay in touch because we grow spiritually at different levels.
Yes.
Paul said, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And so as we grow physically, I look at grandbaby we have, and she's only 2 months now, and her sister, who's about, 15, and her brother, 22. And remember, they were that.
Yeah.
And so just as we grow physically, Dion has 3, has 2 sons and a daughter. And of course, that daughter is rotten. He has spoiled her. But I'm watching them grow.
Yeah,
I'm watching them grow.
But
since we cannot see that spiritual side of us, we don't always recognize the growth until something happens that causes.
It's just like this. I am fortunate enough to have my grandchildren grow up around me.
Okay.
And to watch them grow up and to be young women.
Okay.
I've got one of my granddaughters. I call her my old soul.
Okay.
She talks to me. She had to talk to me with so much respect. She sounds like a 70-year-old woman. You know, and I'm thinking, where did you come from? But I love them. So I love them. I love my children and my grandkids with all my heart.
What about she's going on to be with the Lord now, missionary Doris Carter? She used to say, Bishop, the next time I'm going to have the grandchildren first. I had never heard anybody say that until she said that. But your children are awesome, special. Yeah. They mean so much to you. But it's something different about the grandchildren.
Oh, yeah, I know. You don't want to tell me. I know. Look, and I keep calling my babies, right?
Yeah.
Papa. We're grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But so you'll always be my baby.
Yeah. Well, Brother Doug, I appreciate you taking time out and share with us tonight. And of course, we'll stay in touch from this point forward. Because as I said to you when you called Monday night, we had not talked in a while, and I didn't realize it had been that long till you started telling me about things that had happened. Because during COVID, you know, we shut down, you know, with a lot of friendships. But we're back in touch, and I am excited about what the Lord is going to do in your life moving forward. What assignment He's going to give you, but He will make that known to you. Yeah. Just like He healed your eyesight, took away your diabetes. And one of the things that I appreciate is your knowledge of the medical profession. You know, the training that you have, and there are things that you know simply from having gone through that training. But thank you for being willing to come and share with us. And you're always welcome to visit Mount Sinai. You're always welcome for that. And to those of you who have watched, my prayers that what you have heard tonight has been beneficial to you and has been a blessing to you. And certainly, I pray that anyone who has been dealing or who is dealing with challenges will understand that you shouldn't give up. Hang on in there. As my late Vice Bishop Laurie used to say, don't give up, don't give out, don't give in. Yes. And just hang on in there. because the Lord is awesome and He is good. Bless you, may heaven smile. Good to see you all Sunday morning at a.m. For worship, but then some of us need to be here at 9:45. God bless. Great rest of the week.